Greetings and hello, everyone. Thank you for asking me to share a few words with you today about a man who needs no introduction. He is known from early childhood education throughout your college experiences at every different level. But I'll say it anyway. I'm here to talk briefly about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Again, I am Minnie Pearson, president of the NAACP Champaign County branch, and I did not always know anything about the NAACP, but let me step back in time a little bit. I'm from Greenville, Mississippi, born and raised by a mother and a father. My mother worked in the home and my dad worked outside of the home. And I would often hear as a little girl them talking about that colored man, Martin Luther King. That colored man, Martin Luther King, he's going to help us to do this. That colored man, Martin Luther King. And we would gather around the one little black and white TV that we had in our house, and we would watch some things. And you knew what those things were. They were very violent, and they were very mean-spirited. But my dad worked outside of the home, and he experienced a lot more than we did, and especially my mom. But at an early age, my dad would come home early from work, where he would receive the blunt of racism. And I didn't know what that was called at that time. I didn't know the word racism. But he would receive those mean-spirited things that was being said to him and the names that he was called. I had no clue what he was going through, but he was going through it. My dad would come home early on Thursdays and he would eat his supper. My mom would fix it and bring it in to him, and he would get dressed so he could go to a meeting. That's all we knew. And one day I got to ask my dad, I said, "Daddy, where are you going?" Because I knew that there was no church events. And he would say, on more than one or two occasions, he would say, "I'm going to my necessary meeting." And I said, "Necessary meeting?" He said, "Yes." I learned years later that my dad was going to his NAACP meeting, but he did not talk about it in public. He did not let anyone know. My mom, of course, I'm sure she knew, but he did not tell us, out of a sense of protection for himself and for his family. So he called it his necessary meeting. And just think, today, I'm the president of the NAACP Champaign County branch. And I have my dad to thank for that, because he was instrumental in telling me who to get in touch with when I came to Champaign, Illinois, and was running into, guess what? Racism. And now I am here trying to do what I can to make a difference. But Martin Luther King, he did everything he possibly could, and most of it was cause for him to leave his family and come and do things for people he knew nothing about. But he was placed in our lives at a time when we needed him the most. And he wasn't the only one. We had John Lewis and many, many others that were out there fighting for equal rights for people of color. At that time, we were called colored people. And we were at our worst called niggers. And we were called everything coons, anything degrading. And I didn't understand it, but my dad did, because he lived it. He had that lived experience. And it took a toll on him to the point where my dad was broke down. In spirit, he was broken. But something kept him going, because he knew he had a family to feed, And he always told us, children, he would tell us all the time and remind himself, I believe, and he would remind my mother and us that he was the man of the house. I'm the man of the house. I'm going to take care of you all. I'm the man of the house. And he went every day to take care of us. Although he was being beat down, not only with fists, but with words, emotions, and fear, but he never let it stop him from taking care of us. I say that to say this. This is a little poem about Martin Luther King Jr. He came upon an age beset by grief, by rage. He loved so deep, so wide, he could not turn aside. His passion so profound, he would not turn around. He taught this suffering earth the measure of a man's worth. He showed what man can be before death set him free. He said in his speech, I've been to the mountaintop. And he made a statement like, I've been there, and I may not get over on the other side with you, but never give up. Never give up. And he taught us a safe, non-violent way to get what we rightfully deserved as human beings. And so how could I not, as the NAACP president, come before you and tell you how he blessed each and every one of us, near and far, black and white, because a lot of people who are non-people of color benefited from the work that Martin Luther King Jr. did. And today it makes it even more important because a lot of those rights are now being threatened to be taken away from us. And we must, just like Dr. Martin Luther King, we should never, ever give up. And to our white sisters and brothers, you know what is going on. So we count on you to look up and stand up for what is right, because we are all human beings. My dad took a real toll on my dad, to the point where he became a shell of a man still living in Mississippi. And I didn't understand the things that he was going through until he was older. And he called me to the side and he said, baby, I could have done this. I could have fought back. I could have used my fists. I could have done this. But what I did and didn't do when you thought, or your brothers and sisters thought I should, was to protect my family. Because I'm a man. I'm a man, baby. Although every day when he left home from telling us what a man he was often called a boy, the N-word. He was spit on, called spick, called coon. And every day he would come home a little bit less of a man than when he left. And my mom, I think she understood. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. But my dad was every day losing that vibrant, that strong, that healthy man that he once was. We would rush to him when he got out of his pickup truck, and some of us would grab him by his legs and around his waist, and he would hug us and rub us and tickle us and play with us. But that became less and less and less. And every Thursday night, he would get dressed and he would leave home. And when I asked him where was he going, he said, I'm going to my necessary meeting. The NAACP, as I learned later, helped my dad to hold on to some kind of hope. He retired at the age of 65, and he still counted on people like that Martin Luther King, that colored man, that Martin Luther King, that Martin Luther King. He's going to help us. He's going to do this. And so today, when we face, as people of color, so many things that are trying to be, the things that are trying to stop us, to take us back to that dark, dark time when we were seen as less than human. And the structure that we lived in at that time was not intended to benefit us as people of color. It was never intended to benefit us. We were tolerated. What puzzled me so is what they called my daddy boy outside of the home. But when he came home, he was our dad, and we treated him as the man that he was. So as the NAACP today, Champaign County branch, we work toward racial justice. We work with our community partners. We work with any and everybody to further advance the work that so many people, black and white, like Martin Luther King, worked for. There was a time when I thought that all white people were bad people. They're bad because that's what I saw. And that's what I saw that was helping my dad to be less and less of the man that I know he was. I learned later, we live and we learn. And one day, as we were watching TV and we were watching the marches, I saw white people marching with black people, dogs and water hoses and all of those things, and they put their lives in danger as well. And so I turned and I said, Mama, them white people out there helping? And she nodded her head as tears rolled down her face, and she said, baby, there's some good people on every race. There are good people in every race. It stuck with me for a while because I was beginning to have hatred in my heart as well. But thank God, I lived and I learned better. So today, the NAACP encourages the celebration and recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday with a special emphasis on the passage of the Voter Rights Act. The NAACP recommends members begin activating and contacting their legislators and encouraging the passage of this fundamental right to vote. Legislation and legislators' contact information is found by entering the zip code. Efforts to make it harder for racial minorities to participate in the political process is unacceptable. The NAACP is boldly defending efforts to silence our constituents' votes. Historically speaking, the most recent attempt to strengthen the right to vote is the Congressman John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. In 2019, this bill was introduced in Congress and was designed to eliminate barriers to fair and equal voting access. Sisters and brothers, compassionate, intelligent, empathy people, we are all in this together. You cannot be free until we are all free, and everybody deserves equal protection, equal opportunity under God, who gave us all the right to live and be free of racism and structural racism. So I urge you, and I I urge you. I'm not going to beg you, but I urge you to fight for the right for all of us to enjoy all of the rights and privileges that any other human being will enjoy. And that is voting is our voice. Voting is our right. And encourage your legislators and everybody to do just that. And remember, Martin Luther King did not have to do what he did. He died, basically, for that. And he was killed because he was on the right track. And as he said, I may not get there with you, but he's seen the mountaintop. And so we want to honor his memory, honor his legacy by continuing to fight, because there are people out there who are hell-bent on trying to stop us. And as the president of the NAACP, a strong, dedicated branch of members and chair people, I am so confident that we will not quit. We will keep the good fight. And as John Lewis says, let's go out now and fight and get into some good trouble. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. I appreciate you. And I must say, I am so proud of the members of the NAACP Champaign County branch. We are a diverse group of people fighting for the same cause. And I am so proud. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much. And thank you for asking me to speak. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but there's so much more that I could say. But I know that there are other people who have just more important information. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you. Goodbye.